Well, it is a Tuesday night, and it is going to be a late one. It's Stars After Dark, and thank you for joining us here on the DLLS Dallas Stars pregame show. We're doing a remote broadcast for all three California games, so you get to see Hostage Sam, Leisure Suit Luds, and me stuck in the library as we get you ready for Stars versus the Anaheim Ducks tonight. Already in the chat, we've got people complaining about the late time. Kirsten said she just simply can't stay up or at least can't handle this anymore. I'm with you, but we're still going to do it. By the way, Ryan chimes in, classy Luds with the turtleneck.
Yeah.
We think you're showing some swag tonight, Luds.
He needs a glass of scotch.
No,
he
needs a brandy or a nice port.
The rum and coke.
Oh, there you go.
He's ready. I had someone tell me they're 84 years old and it's way past their bedtime, but they are going to do their best to stay on for this entire game tonight. So we got some dedicated fans here.
Luds for maybe the first time. Well, no, that's not true.
John Radigan sent that to you?
We got all sorts of people here. So we have distinguished Luds, and then we have special ops Luds. I love it.
Yeah, because I'm watching the Rambo Sam there. I'm keeping an eye on him.
I blend in here.
So that's right. Charlie says Luds looks like he needs a nice cigar and a bourbon.
Bourbon I'll take, no cigar.
They're fired up. You know what? This is the most we've had as far as chat comments to begin the pregame show since your Tower of Flames that you had set up already. So we're ready to roll on this one. All right. Craig Ludwig's here. Sam Nassler's here. I'm here. Kat is our producer again tonight and all week long, as producer John is still out at Super Bowl week in New Orleans. So let's get right to it, guys. Sam, Maverick Bourque will not play tonight. Took a puck to the face in the third period of Sunday's win over the Columbus Blue Jackets. He did skate today, but they are still worried about some swelling and discomfort. So Colin Blackwell will play for Maverick Bourque tonight.
Yeah, something we talked about this a little bit after practice the other day. It's pretty swollen is the way that Pete described it. So he skated, as you mentioned, he skated at practice or before practice the other day, and then he skated at morning skate this morning in Anaheim. So very close would be my guess, but we will not see him tonight. Good thing about having depth now, finally, is they can call in someone who is not a 21-year-old kid who hasn't played in the NHL. They have someone, Colin Blackwell, who's really impressed in every game he's played almost all season, but specifically in the last little run here on that fourth line that was really good with Brendan Smith. So the lineup looks similar to what they had yesterday at practice, which Pete did talk about. We'll look at the lines in a second, but Pete talked about how he thought they were kind of stuck in the mud a little bit in the beginning of that first half of that game, and then switched things up a little bit and really liked what he saw. So some options is what Pete loves to say now, because there are actually some options now.
Well, you never like to see a guy get hurt, but Maverick Bourque was really starting to put it together over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we've talked about him quite a bit. I think he's been noticeable in all the games that we've watched him play. There were games in the beginning where he was noticeable, but it was like once or twice a period. Now I would say that it's more often not on every shift, but just about every shift we see him. And again, it really is about confidence and being able to get closer and closer to the game that he knows that he can play it at this level. And I'm sure that the opportunity and the minutes have a lot to do with that. You know, when you don't miss a shift as a young player and the coaches continue to roll you out there, that confidence builds, because you're like, well, I guess they just like what I'm doing. And so, and I like the way he goes to the net. You know, doesn't play on the perimeter. We find him going to the net a lot. He drives down the middle of the ice. So he's doing a lot of the right things.
I don't want to bury the lead here, guys, because the game is our focus, but we have to talk about Miro Heiskanen for a moment. Then we'll get into line combinations, how they're going to play with Bourque being out tonight. The good news on Bourque is that it doesn't seem like it's going to be a long-term thing like Mason Marchment's was, or Matt Dumba's. This is going to be a fairly quick one. In fact, I'd be surprised if Bourque didn't play on Friday in Los Angeles. But Miro Heiskanen had surgery today. We found out from Pete DeBoer that Miro underwent the procedure in New York. They didn't get any details of what type of surgery, what type of injury. All we know it's his left knee, and they said he's out month to month. Now, Sam, if DeBoer's 8 to 12 week estimate that he said on the hard line last week is still true. Now, he had also said some surgeries are 6 months, some are 8 to 10 to 12 weeks. 8 weeks from today would be March 25th. That would mean that there would be 12 Stars regular season games remaining if he were able to come back on the best of timetables.
Yep.
If you go to 12 weeks, which hopefully is the high end and not longer than that, that would be April 22nd, and that's in the first round of the playoffs would already have started. I have a hunch it's going to be somewhere in the middle of that. That's just me, my gut feeling.
Yeah, I think so. I think, though, that Jim Nill will be hesitant to utilize the LTIR like he did already. I think that was a big part of putting Sagan and getting Lundqvist on there and doing the deals they just did this past weekend. Because if Heiskanen can come back, he's one of those guys he's so important to the team. If he could come back and get a good 2 weeks, 10 days of regular season time, it's probably worth it, right? Because you don't want to risk, we don't know, we got the thing going on my screen. You don't want to risk you don't want to risk we don't know what Tyler Sagan's going to do, but the anticipation is at least not until the playoffs start for him. We don't want to risk that also being Miro Heiskanen now. Now all of a sudden you're looking at two of your most important players coming in and just having to step right into a game. So I think they're going to do everything they can to get one, if not both of those guys back. And obviously Sagan now is not really an option. So for me, Miro, the earlier you get him back, the better. But it's not good news for Dallas. It's not the maybe 4 weeks that we were hoping for when Pete first spoke to us that Thursday morning.
Luds, is it a positive that we didn't hear anything more than month to month, in the sense that with Nils Lundqvist, they were very quick to say season ending? That meant that was it. We're not going to see him this year. The fact that we didn't hear that from Miro kind of, to me, sounds like the team thinks that he has a shot at returning for either a couple of games or at least into the playoffs.
I think I'm going to say it's in the middle for me, because I remember when the first report came out, and what did they tell us? That they were going to get a second opinion. They got an opinion from the doctor locally that they all respect here in Dallas. And then anytime that you hear we're going to get a second opinion, like, okay, well, we don't really like that opinion. We're going to see if we can get something that can be a little bit shorter. And so then they go out and they say they're going to go see a specialist. Well, the specialist is probably pretty much saying what the doctor suggested. So I think the doctors sometimes feel vindicated because he needs surgery, and we've gone from week to week to month to month. So, and again, I was talking to somebody today, and I said, for me, if he's back by the middle of April, I think that's great. So I just, when you switch it up from week to week, month to month, you're not doubling what you originally thought, but I think maybe it just it settles the flames a little bit. From the outside, they know where he's at. They know ideally how he's going to be ready on what timetable. And I would think a guy like Miro, he doesn't want to miss a shift. So you would think that he would do everything once he's cleared to start doing things to get his knee back to where they want it to be.
Is that a jukebox behind you there, lads?
It is.
That is incredible.
And
it works. It looks like it works.
Oh yeah, that jukebox was given to me by Vinnie Paul.
Oh, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the line combinations for the Stars. We'll start with the Stars forwards, if you would please, Kat, because it does indeed look like the warm-up lines are going to be the same that we saw from practice, and that is Mikael Granlund moving up to play with Duchesne and Marchment, and then Stankoven with Hintz and Robertson, allowing Wyatt Johnston to center the third line with Jamie Benn and Evgeny Dodonov, who moves to that right side. As Blackwell comes back in, he'll play with Steele and Oscar Beck. So, Luds, we'll start with you first. Your thought about about these three centers, or actually all four with Steele. I mean, if you look just top to bottom, Hintz, Duchesne, Johnston, Steele, I don't know if an NHL team has more depth at center than the Stars when you have that configuration.
Yeah, I mentioned this to you guys like a couple months ago. We were just talking. I said, teams, when we were around, teams built up through the middle, starting with your goaltender, a defenseman, and then a centerman. And so now when you can have 3 or 4 centermen down the middle, it just tells you the depth that they have. And really, you look at that, and it doesn't make it any easier when a player like Bork is out. But regardless of what player goes down, whether it's for a game or two, when you have these kind of options, it's plug and play. And, so the one move just, for Granlund that can play again, anywhere. I mean, you can put him in the middle, you can put him on his offside, you put him on a strong side, wherever he needs to go, gives you those options. So yeah, and again, now all of a sudden we're going, and it's funny, we had the dinner on Saturday night, Sam, the night before we got down there for the game, and Pete was there, and Jim was there, and Janko and all these guys were there. And when I was talking to Pete a little bit about a few things, not technical things, I know you're smiling because you're hoping I brought it up. I didn't. I stayed away.
Did the phrase "man on man" ever come out of your mouth?
In a way, it did, but it didn't go any farther
than
power that.
Play.
You played nice, didn't you?
But you know what? We were talking about a couple players, and it's funny. He brought up Wyatt, and he was like, "And Wyatt Johnson," and I'm like, "I know." And then it's funny for me to see him in the 3-hole tonight, which I don't even know if you're really considering it the 3-hole, but because he was so dynamic up on top with them other two guys, it just shows you that they have so many options. And when the game isn't going the way, coaches like to, they like to fiddle with the lines. He's got a lot to fiddle with. And when you have those kind of 3 lines right there, and imagine when Tyler Seguin's back into that mix, your fiddling isn't really fiddling because you're still playing around with 9 top forwards. So it's a good problem to have when they got to make tough decisions who's in and out of the lineup.
Sam, when you look at that lineup, and we've been talking about this lately, and Sean brought this up the other day, he's taking the assumption that Tyler Seguin isn't going to be back for the Stars. If he does, it's a bonus. When you look at the line now with Granlund in there as well, I know Bork is out today, but just the lineup tonight, that looks deep enough, I think, to contend for a Stanley Cup, in my opinion.
I 100% agree. I think the first thing I thought with the Granlund move was, do they see him as that third line center answer? Because remember, Pete said he mentioned center depth is the biggest thing, especially in the Western Conference. You're going against teams like Vegas that are deep down the middle. Hintz, Duchesne, Johnston, those are the 3 guys he named specifically as the centers that are their playoff centers, the way he said it. So unless they bring someone in that they think replaces Johnston in that third line center spot, that doesn't allow Wyatt to go up and probably play on that right wing of the top line or have that flexibility. So it could still be Granlund, but for me, it's not. It's great. Wyatt Johnson is too impactful of a player that he can't be away from the middle of the ice in the playoffs and being the important spots on the ice. So the thing that I noticed with Granlund, I think it was Robert that mentioned this. Granlund's played a lot on his offside. I think in Minnesota he played it a lot. So he gives, like Luds was saying, the flexibility that they now have with Donoff. They have with guys like Steele, who's played on the other side. It gives them a lot of different things to do, but I think the mainstay is, unless they upgrade again and add someone else that's a top 9 center, which I just don't see them really doing, that is a pretty deep 4 center group right there. And then you think Oscar Beck's a big, strong, he's a rookie, but he's a big, strong, physical center that can go into that spot as well. You have Ben, who's played tons of center in his history. You have guys that could fill in if needed, gives the team a lot of flexibility, which they didn't have. It's funny to say because they only added 2 players, but doesn't it feel like they really upgraded a lot of different areas with just those 2 guys?
Yeah, well, let's look at the defense.
Shouldn't the conversation be the 6 defensemen that are going to be playing?
Well,
right?
I want to show that right now, Kat. If you put it up there, go ahead, Luds, and walk us through what you think about this.
Well, I'm just saying, like, Lyubushkin, I was surprised on his minutes because CC, Lindell, Harley had the big minutes again, and I'll be curious to see if that's the way it stands, just from the standpoint of CC and Lyubushkin, because I've really liked Lyubushkin. And again, sometimes I think when a game is going in a certain way, you want to get the new guy in there, acclimate him as much as they can, get used to the partner and thing like that. And the other one is going to be Bishop. I don't know. I'm going to leave Dumba alone because I think that he's going to. Well, I think he's going to have to, because now we're looking at a Dumba Smith, right? I mean, if he's not in there, it's going to be Smith. So are you heading into the playoffs? And I think those guys are going to have their opportunity to show me who's going to be that number 6 or whatever you want to call it. And it'll be interesting to see how Bishop continues to grow. Now, this is his opportunity to get in here and play in the playoffs.
Boy, do I have a question for you on the other side of the break here. We have breaks now for the pregame show right here on DLLS.
Don't just have breaks, you have Sam breaks, so it's even better. Let's talk about Sleeper. Sleeper is the best fantasy league platform out there, period. You can put your ball or puck knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite or any player will have more or less than their projected stats each week or each night. I will give you my specific picks in a minute here, but with Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. Sleeper keeps you in the loop with instant alerts for breaking news, major injuries, so you can stay ahead of the game, keep track of league updates in real time, so you're always informed and ready to outsmart your friends, which is really the only reason you play fantasy, isn't that right? If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS stars to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Apply it to any contest. It doesn't even have to be your first. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
Don't stop now, Sam. You're on a roll.
I was just seeing if it was going to cut or anything, but now it's
No,
you're
right
just all
into
over
it.
it. So now I'm going to give you my picks for tonight, which is challenging to do since it is 9 o'clock at night already. But first thing is, how cool does the Sleeper app look on a tablet? First time I put it on an iPad here, and it's pretty awesome. But for tonight, I'm going to make a little ticket with 4 picks here. First, Jason Robertson over more. Obviously, you always go with more. If you're asking me, go with more than 2.5 shots on goal, because I believe this game might open up a little bit here tonight against Anaheim. Cole Caulfield for the Montreal Canadiens with a over a half point, which is 2.08 times if it hits, and that's because they're playing the Sharks. So let's be honest, Canadian Sharks, not a whole lot of defense going on in that matchup. On the other side of tonight's game, I'm going to go with Frank Vatrano with over, let's see what it is on the shots on goal, 2.5, over 2.5 shots on goal, because we're not sure whether Troy Terry is going to be in the lineup tonight. And either way, Vatrano might probably slots in on that top line. I expect him to pump some rubber at the net.
Hey, Sam, it looks like Terry's going to play with Vatrano and Ryan Strome.
See, even better. Now he's going to definitely get some pucks on net. And the final pick, Jake Wallman from the Sharks with over half a power play point. That's a 3.41 times. So easy to pick, easy to set up your ticket. 4 picks, boom, they're in for the night. Back to the boys here.
Man, well done, Sam. Very well done. All right, Luds, we have to talk about the Ducks, and there's a lot of talking points, but it begins with the guy that you and I have been focusing on. I was going to say obsessed with, but we're not. But we do have our attention on this guy, and his name is Jacob Trouba. Now, Trouba was traded on December 3rd from the Rangers. Urho Vakanainen, a conditional 4th-round pick, went the other way. And so he's been playing for the Ducks for a couple of months. Yet we still think that even with another year on his contract at $8 million AAV, he could be a great fit for the Dallas Stars. So my question to you is, this will be the first time we'll see the Stars play against the Ducks with Trouba in the lineup. What are you looking at from him? And if he is indeed something the Stars are considering for a trade, what will they be looking for?
Well, I think that wouldn't this kind of factor in where the whole Miro thing ends up? I don't know, and I don't know how you make that decision. But as Jim, you have to look ahead, and sometimes you just have to plan for things to go bad, and you have to be ready for that. But I think that the next year, I'm not worried about the next year thing. I mean, what's he making? $8 million this year?
$8 million.
So that's got to fit in there, and so I would say that he's owed a couple million now for the rest of this year if you get underneath game 20 or so.
Yeah, if you assume he's getting 8 actual money, which he may not be, but you're about a quarter of the season would be around 2 or so, 2.5 maybe.
Yeah, for me, I could see him. Again, I just got done talking about how good Lyubushkin is, and I can see Lyubushkin almost moving down to a 5, and CC moving up, to the top up there on the right. Let's just say the defenseman on the up right now, and have CC play up top, or see one of those two guys, because I don't want to say that Jacob Trouba is a number 2. I think he'd fit in really well as a 4.
I agree.
But they have to take a look at him, because you want to be able to make sure that he can move as well as they want. They want defensemen that can get up and down the ice. Trouba's he plays in the middle of the ice. He's a threat, obviously, to hit people all the time, especially in the middle of the ice. He walks the line as far as, suspension, no suspension. But I think that's a good element to have. And you always need extra defensemen in the playoffs because somebody's going to get hurt. And unfortunately, we've got a couple of hurt banged up right now. But I just think if you have add an element like that plays in front of your own net and that gives you that physical presence in your own end. Now, he was not one of the knocks against him. And the reason they were moving him is he did not play well in a man-on-man system in New York. And they said that was a reason he couldn't, it's funny, they trade him, but now they switched their system to man-on-man, to zone in New York, and all of a sudden they're starting to win. And
yeah, go figure.
One of the reasons they were able to hang around the first month and a half, what I understand, is because of the goaltending that was there. Then all of a sudden the goaltending wasn't there, and then the holes are popping up, and there you go. And so they ended up tweaking their system a little bit where they're, the defensemen are staying a little close to home. So I just think it would be a great addition. But yes, there'd be a lot of things that would have to, go back, they would say, to the other way now. And the other factor in that whole thing is his wife, is part of the picture, and his family. Being a doctor, becoming the doctor, whatever that is. I'm sure what's the technical term she wants to do, Owen?
I believe she was being, I might get this wrong. I thought it was a physician's assistant, aka a PA, but she might actually be going for her full MD. I'm not sure. I'd have to look
right,
it up.
But if they were going to move, there was a place they needed to move to when they had the right kind of training and all the other kind of stuff. And Anaheim was on her list, and it was at the top of the list from what I think I heard, one of the places to move. Now, to ask her to move again, that may not even happen. He may not want to even be moved. So, but I know that they've been watching him. I mean, they watch everybody. And from what I understood, that there were some mixed reviews. It wasn't like he was playing great. So I'm sure they're going to have a close eye on him tonight.
Sam, let's take a look at the lineup real quick, because for the Ducks, their forward group, because Frank Vetrano has a 3-game goal streak. Mason McTavish has 7 goals in his last 6 games, and they are not going to be in this configuration. This is what we thought based on the morning skate if Troy Terry wasn't going to play, but it turns out we're going to see Zegras, Carlson, and Killorn, Vetrano, Strome, and Terry, with McTavish centering the third line of Gauthier and Fabry, and then Ross Johnston with Lundstrom and Leeson. Look, this is a talented, albeit fairly young group, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And they're for as little depth as they have, they're sort of deep in the way they score, if that makes any sense. They're not extremely top heavy. They do have a good amount of players that can help put the puck in the net. The problem is, when you look at their points, I believe Troy Terry leads them, and he's got like less than 40 points on the season. So it's not a whole lot of offense that's being in there, but when they do produce, they like to spread it out a little bit. It's one of those teams that we saw them against Dallas in Dallas. They gave them some trouble. They're speedy, they're skilled. They got a lot of those young guys that Lutz loves, like a Zegras, who can pull off crazy tricks and those things. But when they start getting going, it's like playing Montreal with the Caulfields and all those guys they have. They can get going and they can get you spinning in your own end, and they can put the puck in the net. So the interesting battle usually in these matchups is the goaltending, especially when it's Gibson Oettinger, because of the American duo battle and all those things, and also because a lot of times a lot of pucks get to the net. We saw the Stars put up like 30 shots in one period against Gibson that one time. So he's been good against the Stars. He's got like a .915 save percentage. It's a weird game when these two teams meet, and I think it's because you see a deep veteran team usually against a lot of young, inexperienced skill.
All right, Luds, I looked it up just because I wanted to make sure that our listeners or viewers didn't have the wrong information. So Jacob Trouba's wife is a neuroscientist, and she's also a doctor. So she's in residency. So for those that aren't familiar, you have to go to medical school for 4 years. Then you have to do a 3-year residency program. Her residency was supposed to end in New York at the end of this season. And so because he was traded, that was part of it, because she still has to finish about 6 months worth of residency. Now, next year, that should not come into play, because once you're done with residency, you're a full-fledged practicing doctor and you can go try to find a job wherever you want. So it'll be interesting to see if Trouba's willing to accept another trade, if indeed that's something the Ducks want to do, or if he's just going to hang out in Anaheim for the next year and a half.
I wonder if you could, even with a player that's got a year left on his contract, could you trade him and then at the end of the year trade him back again?
I believe there's a rule where the team that trades away has to wait at least 12 months before reacquiring said player.
Okay. Well, there goes that idea.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about goaltending though, because John Gibson will play in his 500th career NHL game tonight. Kat, if you would throw up the defense and goaltending card, he gets the start tonight in front of a group of sort of a mix of veteran and young defensemen for the Ducks. But Luddy, this really stood out to me. I think this encapsulates John Gibson's career. In 499 career NHL games, he has a 201, 215, and 63 record. 14 games under 500, even though he has a 910 career save percentage and a 289 career goals against with 24 shutouts. His numbers look great except for the results. And I think part that really has to say a lot about what team he's been playing behind.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the conversation for a couple of years is, why doesn't he want to be moved? He obviously loves it there. He wants to be there. You talk about numbers when you look at him and Jake tonight. He's got a 913. I think Jake is a 912 save percentage, and the goals against is somewhere around 2.2 or 2.3 to 2.8. So even though he is playing on that Ducks team, he puts up some pretty good numbers. And when he's healthy, he's a hell of a goalie. And I know that there's a couple of teams. I think Colorado was trying to grab him too, and apparently he didn't want to move. So he's one of those guys that seems he wants to stay there. You would think that he would want to chase a cup, though. It surprises me, right, Sam?
That's crazy. I mean, I was going to say two things to you. It blows my mind that he has not wanted to leave that. I mean, I've watched him play a lot. I lived in Southern California for a while. My friend's a Ducks fan. He gets peppered.
Hey, no need to brag about having friends that are Ducks fans.
He gets peppered almost every time he plays, and he says he loves it. I mean, you're in Anaheim, you're in a beautiful place, but you'd think go chase a cup, and also maybe get a game or two where you don't see 40 shots. But man, how about the U.S. goaltending? I mean, the fact that Gibson was barely even considered to be on the Four Nations team, and you got the other teams that look like Gibson would start for them. It's just crazy how deep the U.S. is at goalie.
He may get peppered tonight too.
Sam,
Agreed.
do you think that the Ducks, who've been better of late, I have them at 4-1 in their last 5 games, which is what they actually are, although they had gone 1-5-2 in their previous 8 prior to that. They're 9 points behind Calgary for that last wild card spot. Do you think they have any chance of making a push?
Not really. I don't see a whole lot of movement in the West. The East, everyone has a chance, but in the West, it doesn't feel like. I mean, they got to jump. I'm looking at the standings right now. 1, 2, 3. They got to jump 4 other teams and get above a team. At Calgary, looks like they're not going to slow down a whole lot. It doesn't feel like they will, but I will say, going off what we just said, to bring it right back to that topic, if Anaheim is anywhere near sniffing distance of a wild card, it's because of John Gibson.
Yeah, there's too many teams that they've got to jump over. Too many teams that they're probably going to have to play down the stretch, and everybody's going to be picking up points, and you're running out of runway now.
All right, Luddy, I have one more thing for you. It's about the Stars' power play. They have scored in 9 of their last 14 games since the 7th of January. So about a month ago, they have the 4th best power play percentage in the NHL. Only Winnipeg, Vegas, and the Rangers have a better power play unit. They've vaulted up to 22nd in the league in power play this season, but it has been a big difference maker, and I think it's a big part of why they've won 15 of their last 20 games.
Well, you know what? There was a word that we were throwing around for a little while, and I even heard Pete DeBoer mention it. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but they're playing a little bit more direct, and that basically means that we're not moving it around the perimeter. We're making a pass here and there, and we're starting to get pucks to the net. So I think
you say direct too. I feel like you brought that up months ago.
That's always my word. Play a little more direct. In other words, just get pucks to the net, and then everybody else seems to have to go there and gravitate. So, you know what? I think that they're feeling it, right? I mean, and now when you got your good guys that are putting the puck in the net on the power play, like Robo, especially Hintz, Duchesne, it seems to be coming together. So, and I think that, you know, the easiest thing that they can do is continue to keep on shooting the pucks. So, and I just look, San Jose has the 2nd toughest strength of schedule remaining. So I would say that they are probably SOL as far as the playoffs are concerned.
Well, I believe that they are going to crush these guys tonight.
You guys hear that? that's the cue for us to wrap it up. The game is an ESPN Plus Hulu exclusive. So no Victory Plus tonight, even though it's against two teams, ironically, that are both broadcast on Victory
I
Plus.
didn't even think about that. That's hilarious.
Does that mean if I don't have Hulu, I can't watch the game tonight?
You have
You can
ESPN.
watch on ESPN.
Oh, I was I thought, shit, I thought I had to go to the bar.
And just like that, Luddy's looking for an excuse to go to the bar. We'll be right here waiting for you at the post-game show. Not just Luds, all of us. We'll be ready to roll.
Honey iced tea.